G'day folks, you're listening to the podcast It's the Whiskey Talking with Harrie and Craig. In this podcast we take a light-hearted look at our current favourite whiskey, things that have got us thinking lately, other things that just pop into our heads while we're talking, and matters that have slowly taken on more significance as we ease our way into the last third of our lives. So kick back, pour yourself a pleasing beverage, and join us on our search for wisdom, thinly disguised as mates having a bit of a banter. G'day, Harrie.
G'day, Craig. How are you?
Good, mate. How are you?
Very good. Very well, thank you.
Feel like a whiskey?
Certainly do.
Well, I've got a beauty for you. As you know, I was travelling towards the end of last year, and
yes, I still see the photos.
and as you do, you get duty free on the way back.
Big bottle.
Yes, big litre bottle. So this one, it's a Lafroig PX cask, and it's a travel retail exclusive, which means you can only typically buy them when you go travelling. You can only buy them duty free. You can't pick them up in a normal shop. It's an exclusive Islay single malt, triple matured in ex-bourbon barrels, quarter casks, and finished in Pedro Ximenez, I don't know if they've pronounced that right, PX sherry butts.
Sherry butts?
Yeah, I think another word for casks, possibly.
I'd say so.
It combines the distillery's signature medicinal peat smoke with intense, sweet and fruity notes, creating a full-bodied, complex profile. So I've got a little bit of information here that I've extracted from the web. So on the nose, it's rich medicinal smoke mixed with sweet dried fruits like raisins, dates and figs, toasted nuts and dark chocolate.
Smoke.
You can definitely smell the smoke, yes, which I like. On the palate, there's a thick, syrupy mouthfeel with oak, caramel and peat smoke, balanced by sherry, cinnamon, black pepper and licorice.
Wow.
Nice. And the finish is long and warming with lingering peat, dried fruit and a hint of salinity. Salinity. Okay.
Insanity.
Insanity. That's after 3.
Actually, it is a very nice tasting whiskey.
Yeah, it's lovely.
I think it's probably more enjoyed sitting by a fire somewhere in a winter. I know that's a summer drink, but it's very, very nice.
Right. Yeah, it conjures all that sort of feeling, doesn't it? The spice and the caramel feeling and the syrupy feel in your mouth, and it's all the sorts of stuff you want to comfort yourself with when it's winter.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I think I sent you pictures, as we normally tend to do to each other, just to annoy each other more than anything else, when I think Trace and I, several years ago, were in Tasmania and it was snowing. We were sitting by the fire and I had a nice glass of Macallan's. But yes, that's what this kind of, I guess, the imagery this conjures up for me. So very nice.
Very good.
Very warming.
So I was thinking during the week about us old blokes. Well, we're not that old, but I was thinking about older blokes in their respective fields and how some of them I've been seeing in the news have been showing some awesome performances. Like, so there's a guy called Alex Volkanovski. He just recently won the UFC featherweight title at the grand old age of 37. Now, that doesn't sound like old for us, but it's certainly old in that field.
Especially in that field.
And then, of course, there was Novak Djokovic, who made the final of the Australian Open Tennis Championship at the age of 38. Again, I think when he won his first tournament, the guy who beat him, Alcaraz, was only just being born. And then, of course, you've got all the old rock stars like Paul McCartney. He's in his 80s, and a host of other rock stars of a similar ilk are still touring. So it's quite amazing how these people are still performing like that at the age at which they are, that relevant to the field. So we've, of course, been talking about retirement a lot and what that might mean. But for some people, it appears to be something that doesn't enter their heads. They just keep on going. Whatever they've achieved in their careers, it doesn't seem to be enough. Or maybe the achievement isn't what drives them. Maybe they just get something else out of the continued involvement, whether it's money or attention, or they genuinely still love whatever it is they're doing. But then I discovered another perspective on this issue the other day. I was scrolling through Instagram, and one of the things I think I follow is an Instagram handle called Travel with the Crows. I'm not sure if the crows are the people or it's just sort of some sort of metaphor for who these people are. But anyway, this one woman was on there. She's obviously retired, and she must have fans because she was responding to comments that she'd had on a earlier post. Anyway, so I'm going to quote from her now, and it's quite an interesting perspective. I heard many of you say last week, I don't understand why I feel so uncomfortable doing nothing now that I'm retired. You know your discomfort isn't because you're lazy, and it's not because something is wrong with you. For decades, your worth and my worth was tied to output, getting things done, being productive, being useful. So when that structure disappears, rest doesn't feel restful. It feels wrong. That guilty feeling you get when you're not accomplishing anything is from conditioning. Our nervous systems learned that movement meant safety. Deadlines meant purpose. Busyness meant we were valued, true or not. When all of that stops, our bodies don't immediately trust the quiet. So if you find yourself restless or frustrated with yourself or wondering why you can't just relax, that doesn't mean retirement isn't working. What it means is you're unlearning decades of pressure. Doing nothing isn't really the problem. Judging yourself for it is. This phase of our lives isn't about forcing productivity back into your life. It's about letting your system recalibrate, and this process takes longer than we expect. So as I've told many of you in the comments, be patient with yourself while you continue adjusting to a new normal. So that's the end of the quote. So I think this is quite an important message for those of us who see retirement as a reward for all the hard work we have done. So we shouldn't deny ourselves that reward.
Most definitely. And that's wonderful. I'd like to say hear to that lady. It's a very, very good quote. And I think that I look forward to the time where I'm questioning, am I not doing anything and should I do something? Because I think realising you don't have to is good. It's like I think what we talked about before, where you have that recurring dream, even after you finish studies, where you've got to show up to university or high school and do some sort of test or exam, and you wake up in an absolute cold sweat, being that it's been 5 or 10 years or 20 years since you actually had to do that. And then the realisation then that, well, that's not real. That's okay. I don't have to worry about that anymore. And I think going through that is actually great. It's cleansing. It's cathartic. It's you realise that, no, I don't have to do this anymore. So I'd be looking forward to that time where, I mean, bring it on. Bring it on. I'd love to sit there and think, oh my God, I should be doing something. No.
Yes.
That's exactly where I want to be.
Yeah. Then it will be happy days.
Yeah, totally. And I don't think it's a negative. I think, like she says, it's a positive. It's just recalibrating, and that sort of harks back to some of the stuff that we talked about previously, whereby it may not be that you're going to be doing what you were doing. If you like being busy and like doing stuff when you're working and you're not doing that anymore, it's finding something else to do. And I think all of our podcastees, interviewees have said the same thing. Find something else and keep being busy, keep doing what you're doing, keep setting goals if that's what you want to do, but do it a different way.
Yep. So anything been on your mind the last couple of weeks?
No. Well, I haven't had much. It's just, I was saying, there's something that's I thought about the other day, and I don't know how it came about. I think it came about from a Netflix show or something happened where people were talking about the different generations and how, having a coffee means something different to what it did before. And I don't know that I've ever been a let's catch up for a coffee type person. Probably usually because I'd rather involve a beer, but I do like my coffee. It's just, I think things have changed a little bit. I've seen things change whereby when you used to have a coffee, you used to catch up with a mate or a friend and have a coffee, I think you'd both walk away from that coffee changed a little bit somehow. You've taken on some of what, because you're talking, and what you talk about seems to resonate with you, and you change and you walk away from that meeting a little bit different. And I think it's probably with both parties. Both parties walk away taking something from the conversation and being a little bit changed. I think that has probably changed, not so much just the coffees, but I think just generally, I guess the analogy that I sort of thought is that people are becoming more like trains. Basically, we're on a track and we stay on that track and we're not coming off that track. And it is very, very difficult if you're speaking to somebody or you want to impart some sort of knowledge or view on life or something to somebody else. I think any unsolicited imparting of that information is becoming dead. The people just don't want to know, don't want to hear, and continue on. Unless they come to you asking for advice, and like in my job, for example, people walk away, and I think they do obviously are improved. But I think the general circumstance is that what I'm seeing is that people are so bombarded with information, be it on the internet and social media and everything else, that their ability to take on any more information or any more opinions or views and adjust their current views seems to be limited. They're full and they won't take on any more. And part of me, I found it a little bit frustrating sometimes, because I think sometimes I feel like, and so it's my issue, not theirs. It's my issue. I feel like I can impart some wisdom upon somebody, and not upon somebody, but to somebody, so they can see what I see. Because I think but that makes me, am I a narcissist? Am I want everybody to see what I see? And then I used to get frustrated because why don't you just, listen to this podcast, do this thing? And I thought, so it was a realization to me that shut up, let people have their own views. I wasn't trying to force views down people's throats, but people will change when they want to change, or not change, but adjust their opinions and their outlooks on life in their own time. But I think I saw it. I think I mentioned it briefly off air before, the Christmas Day debacle at our place, where we had two generations butting heads with each other because of over politics, and it's making me realise that you shouldn't discuss politics anyway, especially not at Christmas, and especially
when alcohol's
skinful of grog. But it is, I think, the generations that come after my generation, I see have very, and we were probably exactly the same at that age, very fixated views. Sometimes I see as probably not educated views, but that's just me looking at it, and aren't prepared to adjust those views or those opinions based on a personal interaction. They'll adjust those views and outlooks on life according to someone on the screen, on Instagram or the Threads or X or something else, but a person face to face used to count for a lot more than it does now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. From my view, I don't know that things have changed in society necessarily. It could be the people that you're interacting with have changed. I don't know who it is, but you'll find that some people, they'll get to a certain age, typically, it's usually young people coming out of adolescence, early adulthood, and they've taken a while to get to the point where they've got a strong opinion about something. Because up until then, they've probably not even been aware of things. And then suddenly, not suddenly, but over time, they start to develop an opinion which reflects their personality.
Exactly.
And it takes a while for people to develop their sense of self. And once they do that sort of work on themselves, and it's probably not even conscious, it does feel difficult for them to take on other people's views, opposite views. And I can remember at a young age, in my early 20s, mid-20s probably, having really vociferous discussions with people about topics that, for instance, it was politics, particularly with some of my relatives. And now I sort of look back and think, why did I hold that position so vehemently when I wasn't really that invested in it? But I think the other side of the coin is that, we've got to our age and, we know a fair bit about things, or we think we do, or we've certainly had a lot of experiences. And at the very least, I think we owe it to other people, particularly younger people than us, to present a view, because it's healthy for them to be exposed to views. And particularly if it's family or friends, we respect them. I think it is beholden on us to present views that are opposite to theirs, if that's what we hold, just simply to help them to test their own ideas. It doesn't mean to say that we are right and we're imposing our views on them. I think, though, that we should be able to feel comfortable about expressing ourselves, and if we think that someone could benefit from not necessarily taking on our views, but at least being exposed to them in a friendly environment, then that's good for them. And it's, if you don't want to consider someone else's opinions, then there's not a lot of point having a conversation with someone.
No.
Because there's never a guarantee that they're going to agree with you.
That's right. And I think that's probably, and I do see that. And I think that it wasn't meaning that I wanted to change people's opinions as such. It is just, I was feeling that people didn't want to listen, don't want to, and maybe like I say, it's been the audience that I've chosen or the audience that I've noticed lately, but I felt that, and it's based only on my experience, so I don't know, maybe they listen to everybody else but me. Maybe that is the case. Maybe I've lost my touch. I don't know, but it is, that's just what what I thought and what I felt, and I'm not trying to change the world, and now it's been good because that's changed me. I've made a realisation that, hey, I can have, but I'm also mindful too that I can have my views and keep them to myself, and that's a stupid thing too, because you might as well go live in a cave. So, I do like expressing my views, but I'm always a little bit candid about expressing them because they're my views, and I don't, wish to put people off more than anything else. I'm not really good in an argument or a fight, so.
Yeah. Well, again, I think we've got to the ripe old age where it's now our time to sort of hold the soapbox.
Yeah.
And
no one listens to us anyway.
That's right. They could always just write us off as silly old buggers.
I think the older we get, probably the more entrenched I believe that's what everyone else believes. The older we get, the more entrenched our views are, and the less we want to listen. So, am I just taking a look at myself, basically, and saying, maybe the mirror's too close. I'm seeing myself.
Well, one of your best mirrors in life is your wife.
Most definitely.
And we've had the wonderful opportunity of having some of me interviewing her.
Yeah, you, because you wouldn't let me interview her.
Well, it would have felt a bit funny.
I think. And I'm glad you did do it, because it was actually so, well, for me, it was so uplifting to hear Tracy talk, because you can be living with someone forever, but you never ever see. It's not like bring your wife to work day or bring your husband to work day. No one. It's very rare that anybody, unless you're working together in the same job, same company, whatever else, and you're self-employed and you work together. I think it's a rare insight into somebody's work life, that you actually see it. And look, I know what she does, or you think but still, even with all of that, it was actually very, very good to hear that interview.
Just a quick aside, I once gave a lecture at my university. It was when I was promoted to be a professor, and you were sort of expected to give a professorial talk. And it was quite a big deal. University turns out, and the Vice-Chancellor introduces you and all this sort of stuff, but you typically invite some of your family. And so my two daughters came along, and in fact, I think, and Nikki's daughters too, a daughter and son. But at the end of it, my two daughters, who, they've known I've been a lecturer all their lives, and they've come along to my university, but they've never actually seen me in a lecture, I don't think. Anyway, at the end of the talk, they raced towards me and they said, "Dad, we never realised that you could do something like that." And all I did was
Did you do a somersault as you got off the stage?
I know, it's crazy. But I think, when you give a formal lecture, it's a bit of a performance.
Totally.
And they'd never seen me do that before, and they were just amazed to see their father, a different side of their father, I think. Yeah. And I think, for you, it's the same with listening to Tracy give an interview and talk about her work stuff when you've never really been in her work environment as a patient, for instance. And I think she has been imparting information like she would to a patient. All right, well, let's give it a listen.
Okay.
A special guest today is my good friend Tracy Swanson, who also happens to be the wife of my co-host, Harrie. Tracy has been a nurse for as long as I have known her, which I would put at around 37 years.
Oh, shit.
It's a long time. We thought it would be a great idea to interview Tracy, not so much about ideas on retirement, although we may touch on that towards the end of the interview, but more because for many years she's been working in a health area that is highly relevant to many people as they get towards the older side of their lives. But without giving away too much, let's let Tracy tell us all about it. G'day, Tracy. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Craig.
And thank you so much for sharing with us some of your experience in the work you have been doing. As a bit of a warm-up, I wonder if you can give us a brief history of your work life.
I can. It starts off that it's a career that I've always wanted to do, which sounds a bit funny, but I always wanted to be a nurse. I failed English in my TEE, passed Japanese, very weird, and so wasn't accepted to become a registered nurse. So I became an enrolled nurse, and then I worked as an enrolled nurse to fund my way to become a registered nurse.
Mm.
From that, I became I was interested in cardiac. Even from the very first lecture, ECG just really got me. I thought cardiac health is very cool and it's very clean nursing. So my direction always went into there. So I did a specialty in cardiac, in coronary care and cardiothoracics. And then I stepped into becoming a cardiac rehab nurse. Quite funny side of my story, though, is that the person that told me I would never be a registered nurse when I went to Wasson for an interview was the person that sat next to me when I became Nurse of the Year as a registered nurse.
Beautiful irony.
The irony was wild. I cannot believe it. I can't believe I won it. And I do still want to apologise to Harrie because, traditionally when you get something like that, you give your other half a big kiss. And I just looked at her and, went up to the stage and I'm just like, well, there you go, missy. Never say never. So for all of those people contemplating something, you never know your luck. So, well, it's not luck, it was hard work. And, I did the degree and the postgrad. But my passion the whole way through, even as an enrolled nurse, was that I was always trying to give back control to the patient because I just felt like that just goes away. And so education stuff was really, really what I was interested in the whole way through. So whenever we had to do an assignment, it was always on this kind of direction that my careers ended up in. Yeah, so I used to love looking after the patient with the most drips. That was, and the most drains and ventilated. That was the exciting thing. You thought you'd really accomplished something. If you were looking after the sickest person in intensive care, you'd really done it. And now I don't have anything to do with that. But those skills certainly help you look after patients now with the knowledge, but I'm not a real nurse, as I'd say, anymore.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So in your role as a cardiac rehabilitation nurse specialist, what do you do?
What do? I look after patients through their cardiac journey. My role is the very unexpected diagnosis usually, so I've been doing cardiac rehab for ages, but I set it up for Hollywood Hospital just prior to COVID. So I started off as just myself, and now I've got a big team. What we do is follow up patients after a cardiac admission. So I have 2 people that work for me now that can go on the ward and start education. And then when you leave the hospital and you've got a new heart diagnosis, I give you a call and then link you into a cardiac rehab clinic. And that's where I spend an hour and a half with you, just stepping through your diagnosis, kind of simplifying that. A lot of the time you don't absorb much when you're in hospital. Usually about 6 to 10 minutes you absorb. So there's no point in me going up there and spending an hour with you because you're not going to remember it. All you want to do is get out of hospital when you're in a hospital. You want to get out of there, right? So it's once you're home, once the reality of the support network is gone, once you're feeling vulnerable, you come and see me. And I just simplify the heart and your diagnosis and go through your risk factor profile and your medicines and help with their confidence to get back to kind of their better quality of life and improve their confidence. Step them into the gym. A lot of people never step foot into a gym, so that's always quite funny. And it's a big ask, We've got people with big, scary heart diagnoses and I want them to work out and they've never done it before. So stepping into a gym for an individualised exercise program and support. My office is right there, so if there are any concerns, I can just step that up to the cardiologist. So I kind of become the patient advocate, which is really nice. And then I run education. So I run that every Monday night. So a multidisciplinary team concept. I could present every topic, but we know that the uptake is better if there's a different health professional presenting. So I give probably half of them, but we have, an exercise physiologist, a dietitian, a stress consultant, a pharmacist, and a rotation of presentations. And then I've kind of found that our hospital supports patients in the country a lot as well, and there's no cardiac support in the country, very minimal. So now I've set up a cardiac health day, and we do that every 3 to 4 months. My next one's in March, and that's why the country patients can come. And we've done that 5 or 6 times and proudly educated an extra 300 people because of that. So they'll come and we put on lunch and morning tea, and we're there as a team to answer any questions and support them from that. So quite a different.
So essentially you see a lot of people who've suffered from some sort of a heart episode.
Yeah.
And your role is to help them prevent a recurrence.
Yeah, that's secondary prevention.
Yeah. So you're giving them all this information, education, and also different activities to start doing.
Yeah.
How successful is all of that?
I think that's the success is very individualised.
Yep.
An important step and very scary stat around the world is that everyone gets offered it and 30% of people take it up.
Wow.
And that's very, very scary. I'm proud to say our stats are a bit higher than that. They're probably 40 to 45, but that's quite unusual. I think the problem is that our medical system, the procedures are really quick. So you can come in, have a bit of chest discomfort, have an angiogram, have a stent, and then people think they're fixed. And then I ring them, they go, but I've got a stent, aren't I fixed? Absolutely not. And so that's why people don't take it up. Yep. Because it's all you've got is one dot on your wrist and you're out in less than 24 hours. So people just go back to exactly the same because it's scary, but most of the heart stuff is silent. Your blood pressure is silent, your cholesterol, your blood sugars, it's all silent.
Yeah, right.
And so people don't change.
Yeah, well, presumably they've taken a lifetime to get to that point, and they think that it can just be fixed in a few minutes.
Fixed in a second.
It's going to take a long time to get.
It's the same as like they go to the GP or a 10-minute appointment and think they're going to be fixed. It's not. Everything is up to you. So you take your car to a mechanic, they might be able to fix that problem, but you still have to get your car clean and check the tyres and watch the gauges and put the petrol in to make sure it's running properly. But people give no attention to the heart. It just blows my mind. It's pumping 3 billion times in a lifetime.
Wow.
It's like 200 to 425 grams and pumps 10,000 litres a day, 10,000 times a day, sorry, and nobody gives it any attention. Yeah. But all the guys are out there checking their cars every 5 seconds.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy.
It's the one vehicle that's transporting you throughout your whole life.
Absolutely, and nobody pays it any attention. Wow. So and we're thinking about retirement mode, I'm like, I'd probably just go off to places and give talks, just to try and help people understand the subtle
get a
job
on a cruise liner doing these educational talks.
I know, but they'd be bored with me after a while. But yeah, there's a lot of, I think the education in our community there's a lot wrong with it.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, in that given that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, what sorts of things should people of our age look out for as potential warning signs of a problem, and what should we be checking with our GP?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, there is, I don't know if anyone's aware of it, but the Heart Foundation launched a free heart health check. Do you know about that?
No, I've only seen some in relation to the cricket, because of what Shane.
Oh, yeah, Shane, they've done. That's brilliant. People are really embracing that, and that's a little aside thing, and it's certainly increased people's awareness, particularly to go and get calcium scores and CTCAs, which I can talk about because that's very important. But over 45, you can go to your GP and ask for a free heart check, and it's claimed back through Medicare, and a lot of people don't realise that. We had it accepted for a while, and then it potentially was going to disappear. And then at Heart Week last year, there was a lot of rallying around, and it has been accepted. So if you were concerned, if you've got a family history, go down to your GP, ask, you shouldn't have to pay. That's a Medicare funded conversation. And they can put all of your stats and your medical blood pressures, weights, etc. into this calculator, and it tells you your cardiovascular risk. What I think is really important is that everyone is aware of their cardiovascular risk factor profile. We used to have what's called the essential 7, and now we have essential 8, which is the 8 risk factors that everybody should be aware of. So obviously there's things you can control and things you can't control. And so gender, aging, genetics, culture. The genetic stuff plays a big part, and obviously there's another story with myself and Harrie with genetic problems with our heart. And then there's things that you can control. Just as a side note, that's what I've found in my job, is that people who have done everything right find it the hardest to cope with their diagnosis.
Yeah.
Because there's less to give back to them. They've lost, so you know what I mean? They've lost control. People who have been overweight and smoking and drinking Coke and have always knew something was going to go a pear shape, they're like, thought it was going to happen. They can regain control and they've got things they can change. So people who have got less to change, the emotional component of their recovery is much more difficult. But if we move forward to the risk factors you can control, that would be blood pressure. Okay, so knowing your numbers would be my message to all of you. You are all very accepting of the GP saying your blood pressure is okay. That's not okay. Okay, you need to know the numbers. The numbers are your reward. The tablets you're taking, you take these tablets, the only reward is a good cholesterol number and a good blood pressure number. Okay, so know your numbers. The new guidelines are saying 110 to 120 over 70 or 80. A lot of my patients get very concerned about lower numbers because years ago they say 100 plus your age plus something. I don't even know that calculation. It's got nothing to do with that anymore. So the kind of you live longer, the lower your blood pressure. So 110, 120, 70 or 80. If we've got a heart patient with less than 130 over 80, pretty happy. The Australian guideline with hypertension guideline, grab yourself a blood pressure machine. I think if you're heading into retirement, grab yourself one, okay? If you're going to get one, get the Omron, OMRON. If you've got a palpitation history or atrial fibrillation, that machine, you can also get one that will detect that. We're getting a lot of telehealth nowadays, and numbers help us. Like I do a lot of telehealth and Zoom and things like that. I can get my patient to take their blood pressure. It really helps us to know, because a lot of you guys, when you come, you don't want to go to the GP anyway. That's another whole story. Most of you don't even have a GP, but you get white coat syndrome. So we can't make a clinical decision on that. So a message would be get a machine and know your numbers. Then about cholesterol, definitely at least annually get your cholesterol checked. The parameters we won't go into today because they vary between your conditions, but you should definitely know. The side note with Harrie and I is there is a new thing in the air called Lp(a). I got found out volunteering at a cardiac conference and had a blood test done, and my phone went off very quickly, bright red, with my Lp(a) being 213. And that should be around 40 to 50. Wow. And so that was a big journey last year to try and work out, because that doubles our chance for heart attack, stroke and aortic valve problems, and 1 in 5 people have it. So I've asked Harrie to go. His GP didn't want him to have it. He said, keep my wife happy. These are the blood tests I have to have. And he's positive.
Oh, wow.
I've sent my sister. She's positive. So this also is genetic. So our kids, with me having it, had a 50% chance of having it. And now with Harrie, it's a 75% chance of having it. It's a test that's currently not funded by the government because there is at this stage no official management or treatment. It's coming, but it's not there yet. So they would open a can of worms. The management for this, for cholesterol, is just statin therapy and risk factor management. So it's kind of being in that preventative headspace and doing all the things that you can control. So it's been a big eye-opener for me that I try to think about. I've had a few big eye-openers heart-wise for myself, but it's really helped my education to patients because I can kind of I can tell them I've had those tests and what it means, and I've had palpitations, I know what it means, and describe it in words it's very familiar to them. So when you go to your GP, if you've maybe got unexpected people that's passed away with heart stuff, for those unknown, those people that run a marathon and then they pass away.
Yeah.
Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Now we're thinking maybe it's this LP little a. But you have to pay. Harrie's, the one he had done was only $18, but can range from $18 to $70. And so if it's funding an issue, but in our long-term health goal, everyone will get it done. And so then we can support those patients and direct their risk factor profile as they're getting older. So that's been a big curveball, but I would definitely get people to get cholesterol done. And also diabetes is huge. Our risk factors of weight and inactivity, type 2 diabetes is very real. So getting a test called HbA1c. Now they're big words, but that's really important because a blood sugar is only as good as the minute you're in it, where the test that we do tells us how many red cells are holding onto sugar over a 2 to 3 month window of time. So it's a better indicator to us whether you're in that kind of diabetic, pre-diabetic phase. Most people ignore it. When they get told they're pre-diabetic, they go, yay, I'm not diabetic. But if you don't put all of the things in place, you'll head into a diabetic profile, which is very, very scary. Yeah. And then weight. I was very much an anti-scale person, but if you're moving and getting older, I would definitely make sure you get a set of scales. And I'm not being mean about that, but one thing is Australians don't act unless the risk is really, really high. And if we tell an Australian that you've got a 10% risk of having a heart attack in the next 10 years, they go, yay. So we've had to make it 5 years because they don't act otherwise. It's very scary. But I would say as you're getting older to step on the scales every day, not for fat, but just potential quick changes on the scales. What happens as we get older is we tend to see a lot of fluid retention. So I'd say do the 4 W's. Wake up, do a wee, weigh yourself and write it down. It's very simple, but what we know is that 1 kilo is 1 litre. And I get patients, and definitely in our age range, it's not an old person's thing, that all of a sudden they're putting on weight very quickly, but it's fluid retention. And that's affecting blood pressure. They're getting ankle swelling, they're getting short of breath. I have patients that feel they sleep more comfortably in a recliner. So if you can pick up that you're fluid retaining or getting quick changes on the scale, that's a conversation for the GP. And if you take that with your blood pressure, you've got numbers, you've got stories, you can get your care directed properly, because GPs tend to, sadly, never take the heart side first. It feels like people go down there and, oh, you've got indigestion, or women, oh, you're emotional, you've got your hormonal. We get misdirected all of the time. So it's bringing as much as you can to support what you feel is going on.
Yeah, well,
really
in a short consult, there's not much to work on, really, except a vague impression.
10 minutes. Yeah. Absolutely.
So if you've got some numbers behind you, it makes it so much easier.
And speaking of numbers behind you, the Apple Watch, I had 2 patients this week who their Apple Watch alerted to heart rates less than 140. So if you've got an Apple Watch, that's what they're doing. And they went to their GP and said, my heart is going off at 38 beats per minute. And their GP's reaction was, I don't trust those watches. Oh. I can tell you now, in clinical trials, the AF one is particularly an amazing tool, the Apple Watch, or any of those watches for AF management. And if your watch is going off, believe it and please go and act. And our Sparky doctors or electrophysiologists, they're encouraging it. It's helping. We don't have to bring people in to get loop recorders as much because our Apple Watches are picking up that kind of stuff. So it's a great device. Yeah. So if you can afford it, absolutely. And it picks up sleep apnea, which is the 8th risk factor, which I was talking about, the essential 8. That got added officially. Sleep apnea is really scary. It increases your stroke, heart attack, heart failure, cancer, dementia, and people are very frightened of the CPAP machine. Please have a look at it. Like a mouth guard sometimes can even help. But if you stop breathing overnight, your heart's not going to like that. So sleep apnea is an official risk factor. And the other one is, we were talking about weight, obviously, for fluid, but please be mindful of that. We know when we retire that what happens, cognitive decline and weight goes up. So there's a lot of morning teas and a lot of snacking and a lot of fivesies. So we have to be really mindful of that. And please exercise. It's our greatest tablet of all. If I could put that in a tablet, that's what I'd do, because no one likes to do it. There is a really important message, actually, I think, for this community that I might bring up, and that is the importance of not ignoring subtle change. So what I see very often is that, say you go for your regular walk, you're doing that all of the time, and it's got a hill in it, and you've always been able to do it, and all of a sudden you get up the hill and you get quite tight and aware and short of breath, and it gives you that feeling that you want to stop, right? Please don't ignore that. If that keeps happening, that to me is a subtle sign of angina. Okay? People just think about heart. They think about the Heart Foundation poster of someone looking pale and vomity and having this crushing discomfort. For us, as we're getting older, often it's the subtle signs. And what happens is that my patients, and I can put the words into their mouth, they think they're getting fat and unfit and think they're getting old, and they accept their reduced ability to exercise. Yeah. If you've got a mate and you're on the golf course in retirement and you've always been able to do a certain amount, 9 or 18 holes, and all of a sudden one of your mates is going, oh, let's get a cart, if that's a subtle sign that something's changing. That's a reduced exercise tolerance. So angina is that heaviness, awareness, tightness, discomfort linked to exercise. Because when your heart rate goes up, there's less time between each heartbeat for the heart to look after itself. So it gives you that feeling to make you want to stop. Okay, so if you were seeing a repetitive pattern of reduced exercise tolerance and the desire to stop, you need to go to your GP. All right, and if you've got a family history, if I saw that in any of my friends, I would tell them to go to the GP and tell them to go get a calcium score and a CTCA scan, just to see what the coronary arteries are doing. Because they're only 2 to 4 millimeters in diameter, and they're okay till they get about 70% blocked. And once they get over there, they're going to give us the sign that they're not happy. All right. And angina is a warning system. There's no heart muscle damage. So I think that would be a really important message for you guys.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to ask you about things we should be doing in our lifestyle to prevent these sorts of things, but I think you've covered a lot of them, especially the exercise and getting all these other things checked.
Yeah, I'll ask you a question, Craig. You just mentioned exercise.
Yep.
If I said to you, what's more important, a warm-up or a cool-down, what are you going to tell me?
Well, in the past, I would have said warm-up as a form of preventing muscle damage. But nowadays, when I exercise, I do quite like having the cool down. So I don't know, but I'm guessing you might be implying cool down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know the reason for it.
So yes, and it's really important. So for all of you guys listening, there's probably a lot of lycra and cleat people out there as well on the bike riding bandwagon. So what happens when we exercise, obviously, is the heart rate increases and the blood pressure increases. That's the beauty of exercise. So the issue is that when we abruptly stop. All right. So say if you're going for a walk, you should start a bit slower, get to the walk and talk pace, and pull back before you abruptly stop. If you abruptly stop, what the heart's doing is delivering oxygenated blood to big muscle groups. So your butt, your calves, your quads. So it's working really hard to get you up the hill. If you abruptly stop, that blood's still pooled in those muscles. So now the heart's got to work even harder to get the blood back through the system. So instead of getting a drop in heart rate and blood pressure, we actually get an increase in heart rate and blood pressure. So if we're going to see a problem, it's usually in the first 0 to 6 minutes of abruptly stopping. So you'll see those and hear those very scary stories at the HBF run. People who haven't run 10Ks for a lifetime, they run 10Ks, they get to the end and they lay on the ground. That's the worst thing you can do. So your heart rate won't lower. All right. So give the heart a little bit of a helping hand by a slow walk. If you felt so uncomfortable and so breathless that you couldn't manage just a gentle walk, when you sit down, just move your feet left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And then the veins have little valves in it that push the heart blood back to the heart. So that assists the heart. So even if you're doing your coffee cleat, lycra coffee shop thing, when you're waiting for your mates, just move your feet. And that way your heart rate will come down and your blood pressure. So when I train every second day and we do very heavy weights, the girls will always just stand there in between the heavy weight. So I can do it, today I was doing it. It was only 8 sets. My heart's 140. I'm not going to stand there. I keep walking because then my heart rate will be slower for my next set. If I stood there, my heart will stay at the same rate.
It's very counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah. So people just think to stand there. No. So that would be a really important message. Just that most problems, 0 to 6 minutes of abruptly stopping.
All right. Well, so we've covered a lot of stuff and we've got a lot of lessons out there. So putting it all together then, given the work that you've been doing in this area, what lessons have you learned about giving yourself or anyone else the best chance of a long life?
Well, I practice what I preach. And I've done a big study on that, and most medical people don't. So I'd say listen to your body, service yourself like you service the car.
Yep.
Yeah. Exercise is the greatest gift of all, and look after your emotional health. Because if we can fix you, we can fix your stent and fix your heart. But if you're sad, it doesn't make any difference how good the ticker is.
That's true.
Yeah.
One thing you haven't talked about is what we put into our body. I mean, you mentioned in passing Coke and a couple of other things.
Yeah.
So
diet.
What about the diet and the alcohol, obviously?
Yeah. They're huge subjects, and I'm certainly not a dietitian, but I go through that with every single patient. One of the things for us all listening is that we're not having enough protein. And I know it's very hip at the moment. So the research is a bit mixed at the moment around the world, but they say 1 gram per ideal body weight, and it's actually moving to 1.2 to 1.4 grams. So you need to be seeing probably 30 grams, 40 grams most meals, because in our next decade, we're going to lose 10% of our body mass, of our muscle mass.
Yep.
And so the only way we can maintain muscle mass is to do weight-resistant exercise and to have enough protein. So for the general stuff, I would say please make sure you do have enough protein in each meal and complement that with weight-resistant exercise. So not just the cardio, not just the walking or the running, but weight-resistant should be 2 to 3 times a week minimum. But women should, that's the best exercise, is actually HIIT type exercise. So even like walk fast or jog a little bit slow, that kind of exercise, and weight resistance. Because as we're getting older, osteoporosis is a big concern for women as well. So probably that everyone knows. I'm certainly not a diet person. Our patient will come in and going, I'm on the celery diet. I'm on they bring me every single diet. I just don't want a diet headspace. For heart health, it's not rocket science. Everything in moderation, beautiful, colourful food. If your grandkids open your fridge and say, why isn't your fridge colourful like Nanny's? Because that happened to me. So my fridge is very colourful, and Nana's fridge had no colour because it was plastic ham and cheese and white bread. All right, so have a colourful fridge. Yeah, make sure over half your plate is veggies and salad, and don't label yourself as being on a diet. Alcohol, sadly, we all know it's not good for us. We can't advocate it. There was mixed messages on heart health and red wine because of the Mediterranean diet. So we have to have alcohol-free days. We shouldn't binge drink. It's not rocket science. One of the biggest problems in heart health as well is atrial fibrillation, and it's very much binge drinking and too much coffee and stuff. Mixed research again, but they can all stimulate those rhythm problems. So sadly, there's not enough evidence for non-alcoholic, people not consuming alcohol to say you need to have a red wine. So unfortunately, because we know we all love it.
Yep. All right, well, that's been very informative, and taken a good chunk of time, so I'm not going to ask you all the questions that I typically ask people about retirement. But there was one that I wanted to get to, and it sort of might be a way of summing up some of the things that you've been talking about. So you and I and Harrie, we're in our early 60s now. If you could sit every person our age down and talk to them about their bucket list versus their health list, what would your primary message be?
Their bucket list.
So the bucket list of things that they need to tick off before they die versus the health list of things that they need to...
So you want me to say what the health list would be?
Well, I don't know. I mean, do you think just focus on getting those things done, or do you think focus on their health? Or
No, you definitely have to do both, because life is... You need physical, emotional, social components of life. Absolutely, you have to have a bucket list, but you're not going to be able to fulfill your bucket list unless you're healthy enough for it. Yeah. So just get serviced every year, exercise every day if you can, eat colourful food, have a few alcohol-free days, and if you've got a genetic thing that you can't control, which I'm experiencing now, just make sure you're doing everything else you can, because what I see in my careers is the what ifs. People... They go through something and something's still not okay. So if I've done everything right, if I put it to my example, if I know I've done everything right now for this condition I've got, if I still have a heart attack, there is no what if. And I'm very passionate about that. I don't want to be on the cath lab table going, what if I took my aspirin? What if I go on and have my echo? Because they're the things that mess with your head, and then you don't have a good emotional recovery. So know that you've done everything you can. Yep. And get that bucket list as big as you can. And do it. It doesn't mean that when we talk about retirement, we kind of, as a friendship group, that's just the latest thing everyone's talking about. But I think for me, I want to do progressive retirement.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think abruptly stopping would suit my personality at all. But I do like the idea of progressively pulling back. And I've adjusted, even a very quick example is I've adjusted this year, and now from Thursdays I'm working from home. And that just gives me an extra hour and a half. I can still consult on phone and Zooms and all of that kind of stuff, but it gives me more time for my family and Addie and our granddaughter. And that's a little beginning to the plan of stepping back and filling it with lots of caravanning and going away and holidays in South Africa, although it's just been flooded, which is very scary.
A lot of places have recently.
No, it's very scary.
There's a bit of a problem. All right, Tracy, thank you very much for your time and for sharing all of that wonderful knowledge with us. And there are some awesome lessons for us all there. And and I wish you all the best in your retirement, and looking forward to sharing some of it with you.
Absolutely. Can't wait. All right. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Tracy. See you.
See ya.
All right, that was really good. I thought Tracy was very informative. There's so many really good lessons there for us all.
Yeah, I wondered there whether you had the right person. I didn't recognise the voice. It's a very, very nice voice, but I didn't recognise it. It was quite different to the voice that I hear all day, every day.
Yeah, the professional Tracy.
Professional Tracy, yeah.
Yep. So there are some interesting topics that I think would resonate with us all, and some messages that even for, they're quite counterintuitive for me, and I would have considered myself fairly well informed about this stuff, but there's lots of stuff there. What was shocking was that everyone who goes through these sorts of heart episodes gets offered the service that she provides and other hospitals provide, but only around 30% take it up.
I think that's right. I think GPs, or the first line, I think a lot of them are starting to now promote it, but up until recently they probably weren't.
And then the other one about the lack of attention to the heart and its issues compared to, say, the attention that blokes, I suppose, it's a bit sexist, but generally it's the case, the attention that blokes pay to their cars. They're more likely to service the car than they are the heart.
Most definitely.
But I think a message for us all is that for anyone 45 years and over, then it's possible to go through your GP and get it funded by Medicare and get a heart check, so that you do know what your cardiovascular risk is. So,
and it starts a conversation with your GP as well. So hopefully it becomes a two-way conversation.
Yeah, there's no point brushing this stuff under the carpet. We've really got to pay attention to it if you want to live a long and healthy life. But curiously, not all heart issues can be avoided by our behaviour. Some of it is genetic. And what was interesting in what Tracy said was that the emotional side of recovery is so much more difficult for people who realise that they've come to this point where they've got an issue, but they don't have any direct control over it. So that if it's because of genetics, then that's difficult to sort of cope with. You do as much as you can, but then you're sort of relying on medicine to help you.
Especially when you're one of those people, someone who's done all the right things, eaten the right foods, do their exercise and everything, and then you get this all of a sudden a heart episode, and you think, well, why me? And it's very hard to, like Tracy said, to change something when you're doing all the right things to start with.
Yep. But yeah, a couple of things to keep in mind. If you do go and speak to your GP, is to know your numbers, like your typical heart rate and your blood pressure and what your normal cholesterol levels are. And also the interesting thing about exercise, which really was new to me, the difference between or the value of a warm-up versus a cool-down. And so, since I've done that interview with Tracy, I've been paying attention to that a lot more in the gym.
Well, I was, I guess, advised of that before the interview, so I've been on doing that. I was never a big one to do either of them. I just get in, do the exercise and stop because I don't like it. So I've got to try and do my warm-ups, and also do the cool downs, which I do now, and that's not a hard thing, especially for me now because we live quite close to the gym. Tracy, because of her work constraints, will often drive to the gym so she can drive and get straight to work, where I'm a little bit less constrained when it comes to work. So if I can, especially while the weather's good, I'll walk to the gym and walk back, which gives me a chance to cool down and warm up as well, which is good. The things that I guess that impacted on me in that interview was the LP(a) thing, which I think if anybody wants to look it up, you can look it up, LP(a), which is lipoprotein something or other that Tracy's mentioned. And whether her voice sounded different and I didn't recognise her as Tracy or what, I don't know, but that did hit home. Obviously I had the tests and now found that I have whatever that condition is, LP(a), which it's not like winning lotto. There's 1 in 5 have it, so it's probably a lot of you listening. Maybe if there's more than 5 of you listening, one of you's got it. Going to probably have it. And I think the best way to explain it that I can, it's a condition. It's a up till now unmeasured marker, I suppose, of cholesterol. And I said, yes, I've got it. And I can honestly say when Tracy mentioned it, and she sort of, oh, you got it too, and she looked visibly concerned. And I said, yeah, right. If 1 in 5 got it, didn't really take it on too much until I heard in her interview. The thing is that it doubles my chance of heart attack and stroke and everything else. So I do understand now why she was a bit concerned about it. At this stage, I can't do anything about it other than take statins, which I never thought I had to because my cholesterol has never been that bad, I didn't think, but now I'm taking it as basically a
precaution.
Prophylactic as a precaution. So that was, I guess, a bit of an eye-opener for me, even though I knew, I didn't know. And the other thing was the little changes, be mindful of the little changes as we get to our stage in life. I haven't had the little changes that I can note, and obviously the only change for me was because I got a blood result that I wasn't expecting. But it's physical changes. I haven't had any physical changes, but I am mindful, and I am starting to weigh myself now just in case. But I did notice it with my mum the other day. My mum's 86 on Christmas Day, and she's been saying the last little while, I'm just so tired at the moment. I can't believe it. I'm so tired, and I seem to be sleeping okay. I'm realising now I probably need less sleep than I used to, but I just seem to be so tired. I get through till about 11 o'clock, and I'm just so tired. And she puts it down to the fact that she's old and probably not getting as much sleep as usual. And that's exactly what Tracy said. We get to an age where we blame changes in our activity or in our, in our body shape or whatever else. It's just what happens when you get old. And I discussed this with Tracy, and it's probably, well, more than probably, it's highly likely that Mum is experiencing this as the eighth thing to look out for, which eighth sign or indicator would be probably more likely than not it would be sleep apnea, because I've heard my mum sleeping and she snores like a harvester. So I think probably that's something I've got to start pushing now. When Mum has her next appointment at the GP, we've got to reactivate that. I know she's done the sleep tests, and I believe that when the sleep tests were done before the sleep studies were done, there was probably a indicator there of sleep apnea and nothing was done about it. So I need to speak to her about possibly having a CPAP machine, because it's not the tiredness that's going to be a problem, it's the stuff that happens. The tiredness is a symptom of other issues.
Yeah, it's the strain on the heart that's the issue, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, and one of the other big messages that Tracy ended up with was exercise as a tablet. That it can act as a form of medicine to some extent to push away some of these issues or prevent them. And that's an interesting segue, because the guest that we'll be having in the next episode, that's his main topic, which is exercise medicine. So thank you, Tracy, for providing us with that segue and that advice. So I think we've covered quite a lot of territory today, so might be worth lubricating our throats and recovering for the next episode.
And yes, I'm now getting to enjoy this very much, and I don't need the snow and the bush and the fire. I'm enjoying it exactly as it is, sitting in the wardrobe. What is it, 38 degrees outside?
Yes. All right, thanks, mate. See you next time.
Cheers. See you next time.
It's the Whiskey Talk. It's written and produced by Craig Spielman and Harrie Swanson. All music is written and performed by Craig Spielman. The audio was recorded at the Wardrobe in Perth, Western Australia. We value your feedback about the show, especially any information you can provide on issues we've discussed that we can share with our listeners. We'd also love to hear any whiskey recommendations. Our email address is whiskeytalking@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. We all benefit profoundly from more listening.